So, when Jesus called me to follow him, I had to make a really big decision. See, because I really loved my sinful life, like so much. I loved it. And I didn't want to give it up, but Jesus was calling me to throw it all away. So I had to take my two options and put them up on a scale. I had to weigh them out. And this side was my life, everything I've ever known, my desires, my comforts, my pleasure. But on this side was Jesus. And I had to ask myself, which one of these is worthy of following for the rest of my life? And I chose Jesus. Yeah. And I think if we're here today, each and every one of us has had to face that decision. We've had to weigh out those options at some point in our life. And if you're here, it's because you chose Jesus, right? But the truth is that we continue to face that decision every single day of our lives. Every day we continue to ask the question, is he worthy or is he not? If you're saying, I've never asked that question in my life, let me encourage you. If you've ever faced temptation, you've genuinely considered giving into it. It's because your heart is asking, is he worth denying my desires for today? If you've ever felt led to share the gospel with a stranger and you didn't want to, it's because your heart's asking, is he worth leaving my discomforts for? Is he worth leaving my safety for today? And sometimes, if we're honest, the answer to that question in our heart is no. And so every time that we fall into those pits of sin or disobedience or delayed obedience, it's because we've lost sight of his worthiness. We've forgotten what it is that makes him worthy. And so that's why today I want to talk about Revelation 5, the ultimate evaluation of his worthiness. I love the scripture, y'all. In this passage, John is having a vision of the throne room of God. And heavenly beings are surrounding the throne, worshiping him. And on the throne sits the Father. And in the Father's right hand, he holds a scroll. And it's a very important scroll because this scroll represents the fate of all humanity. This scroll holds all the judgment and the restoration of the entire earth in it. So not just anyone can open this scroll. So that's why a mighty angel calls out, is anyone worthy to break the seal and open the scroll? And all of heaven goes silent because no one in heaven and no one on earth and no one under the earth is worthy to open this scroll. And so for a moment it seems hopeless because if no one can open the scroll, no one can redeem the earth. It says here, John begins weeping out loud. And I just realized while I was sitting down, why was he weeping? Because he's been through so much sacrifice and pain and temptation throughout his life. He's been tortured and exiled. And if no one can open this scroll, no one can redeem him. And so could you imagine the heaviness of that silence in heaven? But then something changes. Something shifts. John sees something unexpected. He sees a lamb. And this lamb looked like it had been slain and slaughtered and bloodied and bruised, and yet it stood alive in the throne room. And this lamb goes up to the Father and he takes the scroll from his right hand because only he is worthy to open the scroll. I'm telling you, Jesus is the lamb. Jesus is the only one worthy of opening the scroll and breaking the seals. And if we're wondering what makes him worthy, it's right there in verse 9. It says, the elders and the angels, they start falling down in worship to sing this song. They sing, worthy are you to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain, and by your blood you ransomed people for God from every tribe and language and people and nation. You've made them a kingdom and priests to God, and they shall reign on the earth. It says it right there. You are worthy to take the scroll because you were slain. Because you ransomed people for God from every nation and tribe and language and tongue. You are worthy because you made them a kingdom and priests to God to reign on the earth. So it's not just his prestige or his power that makes Jesus worthy. It's his sacrifice on the cross. Only he could be the perfect sacrifice. Only he could restore us to the Father. No one else could do it. He was weighed on a scale with all of creation, and only he was found worthy. And so what would happen if we began living in light of that worthiness? What if we took a lesson from the elders and the angels and we began living in constant contemplation of his worthiness? Could you imagine how it would shape our life and our decisions? Imagine that moment of hesitation and temptation if you stopped and you visualized yourself holding out the scale. Is he worthy or is he not? In that moment where you don't want to deny your desires, Is he worth denying my desires today? He is, because he denied himself for us. In that moment, is he worth sharing the gospel with this stranger? Is he worth sharing my testimony? He is, because he gave us a message worth sharing. In that moment, is he worthy of picking up my cross today? He is, because he picked up his cross for us. And so what would happen if a group of believers began living in light of this worthiness? Can you imagine? It'd create a holiness and obedience within us. And this holiness and this obedience would begin to evangelize before us, so that it would convince people by our lives alone of the gospel before we even get a chance to open our mouths. And I think just with that, we could begin to change cities and nations and a world. And just like that, we could become worthy because of his worthiness, so that we can follow the call set out in Ephesians 4:1 to live a life worthy of the call that he set before us. And so I leave you with this challenge today. Does your life reflect what you believe about his worthiness?